People Before Profit TD Ruth Coppinger, who, like almost every other politician, is about as authentic as a cheap knockoff handbag bought for a tenner on a Lanzarote beachfront, has had more to say about Maria Steen's fashion accessories than she has to say about a 3-year-old boy suspiciously buried on wasteland in Donabate by his parents in the dead of night. You can pause to read her tweet. Given that it is possible Daniel Arabo's African mother could conceivably be given only community service in relation to little Daniel, and his Irish father could face no consequences at all whatsoever, all TDs and senators should be up in arms. To put what I've just stated into perspective, this week a man received 10 months in jail, with the last 3 months suspended, after he was convicted of shouting insults and a threat to IPAS residents at a protest. One resident, he claims, assaulted him. It would appear from my search that only one TD, that being People Before Profit's Paul Murphy, posted on social media about little Daniel, although I'm open to correction on that, and his post was technically incorrect, and in my personal view appeared to be a thinly veiled attempt to position Daniel's non-national mother as some sort of victim of social welfare harassment. Murphy claims Daniel was flagged as missing specifically because of the state's interest in social welfare fraud, when in fact it was conflicting information given about the boy's whereabouts on a routine back-to-school allowance form rather than an investigation into fraud that prompted them to notify TUSLA that something was not right. Not that I'm here to bat for TUSLA nor Maria Steen. The former seems to have prematurely closed their file on Daniel because of lockdowns, and as a barrister the latter can certainly defend herself and her handbag, authentic designer item or not. Daniel, however, had no voice when alive, and has even less of one after spending 4 years in a shallow grave, dumped there by the people who gave him life, and may well have taken that life away. If they did murder him, then it looks like they will get away with that. For 118,000 per annum plus thousands in expenses, I would be demanding Coppinger and other such public servants express outrage, and I expect her not to turn off her comments on any post on which she should be rightly challenged. Same goes for any so-called journalist who has focused more on a handbag than a dead child who was disposed of like a pet hamster or a piece of rubbish. Have any of them ever heard of that old saying, "A child is for life, not just for burying in a shallow grave"? I, for one, would like to point out to Coppinger that buying a ridiculously expensive handbag with one's own personal, non-taxpayer money is not an actual crime, but concealing a child's dead body in the middle of the night and claiming social welfare for him for 4 years is, although it is apparently not much of one, as the media is at pains to point out in their persistent and sickening efforts to paint the parents in a sympathetic light, despite the fact that the Irish father, Kieran Duran, left for Brazil and is not returning to bury his child and did not return to help locate his child's body. Apparently the mother too is a tragic figure despite claiming benefits for her deceased son. These are surely not the actions of innocent parents, in the same way a secret nighttime burial isn't indicative of innocence either. Also, there were initial reports that it was disclosed that Daniel could have met a violent end, only for that disclosure to subsequently be swapped for a natural death narrative, even though all there is to go on there is a claim from family members who have everything to hide and everything to lose. So with all this in mind, why, Ruth Coppinger and others, have you nothing to say about Daniel? An actual child, not a handbag, a 3-year-old boy. Is it because he's mixed race maybe, or are politicians closet racists perhaps? Or is it because he has a black African mother and diversity narratives need to be prioritised over children? Or maybe Daniel is proof that children were failed because of the pointless lockdowns that Coppinger, Murphy and others pushed. They pushed that so hard. Anyway, look at him. It's hard to know for sure, but Daniel looks very fearful in this photo, and the whole country should be shouting for justice for this child. But instead, political point scoring over handbags is more pertinent. Now, as I pointed out, the media are as bad, reporting that the little boy's mother, quote, did not initially report that Daniel had secretly been buried. But not only did she not initially report it, she withheld that information for 4 years and only disclosed it when she had no other choice but to do so. In the past 2 days, pathology results have unsurprisingly yielded nothing conclusive, because only tiny skeletal remains were found, and so there is no body to do a proper post-mortem on, so to speak. No evidence of foul play means the crime of murder cannot be proven, and this is exactly why it needs to be more of a crime to conceal a dead body under Irish law. If someone does that, then it should be legally considered automatically indicative of foul play, because let's face it, there's no reason to bury a child's body in secret unless you have something to hide. Politicians should be demanding harsher penalties for concealment of a body and failing to notify authorities of a death in light of Daniel's case. Currently, the summary offence of a, quote, improper burial is not considered serious enough to warrant arrest for questioning, and it is dealt with at district court level. An arrest is only for the purpose of formal charging. Key offences in this case would include failing to notify authorities of a death and improper disposal of a body. The maximum penalty is a fine of €1,237 or a maximum of 12 months in prison. Community service can, alternatively, be given in such case. No forensic evidence of murder and the child's mother, Marie Arabo's quote-unquote cooperating and her claims that the child died a natural death means it is likely she won't face serious charges. Furthermore, although Brazil and Ireland do share an extradition treaty, it is only applicable for serious offences, ergo those that would result in more than a maximum 12-month sentence, and so it is highly unlikely the father will be sent back or brought back to Ireland in this case. Imagine, that's all these people had to do, is claim a natural death occurred. How is this possible? And if or when Kieran Durnan's body is discovered, will those involved also get away so lightly? It would appear so. That's a disturbing reality. Not that anyone is talking about this because politicians like Ruth Coppinger are too busy engaging in handbags at dawn nonsense to highlight such matters. And that suits the government and Tusla just fine, as there's no questions to answer if there's no murder. In 2018, Coppinger posted a reply to someone on X. She said, #everyday sexism, why are you tweeting me about fashion? I don't care about any woman or man's fashion. Please tweet about politics. And to her, I'd like to say, don't tweet about handbags. Tweet about Daniel instead, or Kieran, or the 12-year-old unaccompanied IPAS girl who's been missing since 2023. Use the doll to highlight the system that failed them. Highlight open borders and how that facilitates child trafficking. Post about rape gangs targeting children in Tusla's so-called care, and so on and so forth. Most of all, demand to know why the law as it stands offers favourable outcomes to those who may have or would kill a child and wrongly hide their body in just the right way for just long enough. To Coppinger and her party, People Before Profit, I would also say this. Place precious children before political point scoring. By ignoring Daniel and bemoaning a handbag that reportedly cost several thousand, you ironically made that item more valuable and newsworthy than a little boy who should be in a loving home. Instead, he is in a morgue on a cold steel slab, alone, dead, and voiceless.